Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. For this video, I want to talk about leaving your couch potato, your drained, your lazy, your unproductive self in 2025. We all go through unproductive phases. They're also what make our productive phases feel more productive, which is great. But the key thing here is to get yourself out of that as soon as possible. Waste as little time as you can because 2026 is our productive girl era. So if you've been stuck in an unproductive hole for a while now, you've come across this video for a reason. So we're going to go through a range of unconventional action and mindset-based tips that have truly worked for me and will get you out of your slump too. Productivity tip number 1, stop thinking. The biggest barrier to getting actual work done are your thoughts. Whether you're analyzing, anticipating, catastrophizing, the more you think, the deeper of a spiral you fall into. In this context particularly, nothing good came of thinking when action was the necessary thing to do. All thinking does is delay. What you need to do in these moments is enter your autopilot mode. You know when you're in deep thought and you just shake yourself out of it. And there's this gap of literal seconds of a moment of nothingness in your head. Like you're just processing the fact that you've just distracted yourself. There's nothing happening. You're in that transition period between one thought and another. That gap, which usually only lasts for a couple of seconds, is where you get up and move. You move and you keep moving until you open up that textbook, until you open up your laptop screen, until you grab your pen, until you put on your trainers to go to the gym. That is the gap that you leverage. You need to utilize those brief moments of brain confusion where it got distracted from its thoughts. Whether that's because you shook yourself out of it with that intention, or it was naturally in a transition period. And the more often you do that and are able to identify those points of space, you'll be able to not just think, but do. This tip is not actually for those times where you do need to sit down and think and process and analyze and make serious decisions. It's more for the times that you don't actually have to think so deeply, and it's more about the physical movement of getting from point A to B, or from picking up that pen, or from writing the title to your essay. It's the starting steps that you need to take to get you to your project or destination that you've been putting off for so long. Once you made it there from being in your autopilot mode, you're most likely to be in that zone of focus and productivity anyway. Number 2, the biggest issue that you probably have that leads to zero motivation, brain rotting, is that when you do relax, you're probably not even productive at that. You're either guilt-tripping yourself for not doing work, or you're not giving your body what it actually needs. You're stuffing yourself with junk food, hoping that it will comfort you. You're laying indoors all day in an unventilated room, and your body ends up feeling more tired and unrested than if you were to actually get up and go for a walk outside in the park, or go to the gym and actually fill your body with needed endorphins. Because scrolling on your phone all day does not actually satisfy your brain's reward systems, because it's become desensitized to all the scrolling that you've done. Becoming more productive in the ways that you relax in your time off will make you a million times more productive when you need to be, because your brain is now satisfied. Your body is now satisfied. You don't have those body aches that you have from laying down all day. Your brain is not as easily distracted because you've now filled it with quality serotonin and dopamine from more fulfilling activities. So when you do rest and relax and take time off, make it worth the time. Number 3 is a purely personal tip that I've never seen or heard or talked to anyone about before, but I generally feel most productive where I come up with the best ideas, the most out-of-box thoughts and concepts is when I am in transit, when I'm on the bus or on the train, on the tube, when I feel externally and physically productive in that sense of like movement happening around me. I think that unlocks the internal productivity clock. Maybe it's also the fact that I can't do anything but sit here and wait. Either way, try it out and let me know if it works for you, even if it's that perspective shift. But super interestingly, so many of my best ideas have come from me taking the bus, train, tube. Number 4, if you usually use the same software or materials to ideate on, consider changing that up. Because back when I was noting down YouTube topic ideas and all that, I always used my notes app or I used my Word document. But recently I started using Notion, and just this simple change of platform, layout, and the features of the software made me think a little bit differently, made me think more out the box, made me more inspired and excited to test out that new software, making my ideas more fresh and new. If you're always typing out ideas on a laptop, maybe consider using physical paper and pen to jot down your ideas, or vice versa. Sometimes just changing the setting that your ideas eventually sit on can make all the difference that you need, because maybe those ideas aren't coming out because they don't want to sit there. Maybe they want to sit on the Notes app. Maybe they want to sit on your journal, your diary, your physical paper. And I don't think the secret is in the actual material itself or the software or the layout of something. I think it's the change. Because to come up with fresh, new, unique ideas quicker and faster, which is where the productivity element comes in, you need to step out of your zone of familiarity frequently, because we get familiar with things quickly. So as soon as that hits, as soon as you start feeling comfortable and therefore less inspired, that is where you change it up. Number 5 might sound counterintuitive, but trust me when I say this, plan a busy day. Interestingly, the more you schedule for yourself that day, the more that gets done in the time slot that you've assigned for that task, because everything becomes visually finite. You know that you only have that time that you've allocated to complete a task. You've now created urgency and feel pressure to focus and progress on a task before moving on to the next. My days that felt super flexible and relaxed, I always got so little done because I underestimated my need for structure. Number 6, speaking of structure, structured working is the most reliable way to a productive and successful workflow. Separate your massive projects into smaller chunks. Categorize them, put them as headlines for your paragraphs to go under. Focus on smaller, more digestible and actionable steps. So often we lose focus and productivity because we get so overwhelmed by this massive, intimidating Pandora box that we expect to open. But you're only overwhelmed because you haven't actually come up with a good plan that has common sense. What is realistically achievable from week 1 to week 3? How will you measure this progress? So slice your bigger project into smaller, new focuses, but make sure that each new focus does something useful for you. Number 7, when we talk about productivity and getting your head down in a textbook or coming up with groundbreaking ideas, coming from a creative background, I just want to say, have the patience and trust that even when you're not able to focus or aren't working at all, everything you do around that has the potential to and could be that thing that sparks the idea to mind. For that to happen, you need to be open for it. You need to have the trust and fluidity and not take life so seriously all the time. Like, not get yourself so down about not having had worked or not have been able to focus. Don't jump to feeling bad about yourself, because a lot of the time what that does is takes the focus away from what actually needs to be considered, thought about, decided on. You start focusing on your guilt. You start focusing on how little you've done and how bad you feel about yourself, where if you took life a little lighter and had the patience and trust that I'm telling you to be more open to, the focus stays as the original one and your emotions aren't able to distract you as easily. There's no need to look for a new focus/problem where we become the problem and focus, because that is just pure self-pity and punishment. And neither of those lead to lasting productivity. Number 8, I live by this, and it's the easy, hard, easy sandwich. It's fairly self-explanatory, but to break it down, what that is if you were to write a to-do list for yourself or to schedule out your day, you would put an easy task, whether that's a chore that doesn't use much brain power, whether that's a very quick task, but essentially you put that first in order to get you into the role. After the easy thing comes the hard thing. So in the easy task, you have built up the focus in order to be able to easily start on the harder task. And once you're getting through that harder and chunkier task and potentially losing focus, motivation, energy, knowing that the next task you need to do is 10 times easier should be enough to get you through to completing it. The structure always works for me, and I think the success rate should be pretty high on average, because expecting to be able to complete the toughest task ever after going through a whole period of unproductivity for me seems unrealistic. Number 9, put the why back on the forefront. We tunnel vision so hard on the what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, how it needs to be done, we lose the purpose of it. We forget why we are doing this in the first place. At the end of the day, it was our choice, and it is still our choice if we still see the value in it, because you do have the power to choose not to do it anymore. You can choose to give up. You can choose to drop out. You can choose to be unhappy. You can choose to feel the guilt of that. So bring out that perspective of power, control, free will, and reflect on why you chose to do it in the first place. Why does it matter? So if you're unproductive around cleaning, going to the gym, completing homework, ask yourself, why is this important? Why do I need to do this? And why do I need to do this? Focus on your deeper purpose, not just that there is a purpose, and make it personal to you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see your better versions next time.